Welcome to Trust Your Inner Sense with Joanne Starkman podcast. I'm Joanne Starkman, and I look forward to going on this collaborative journey with you to ignite inspiration, inspire self-discovery, and instill new meaning in life. I'm excited to host a wonderful array of guests, including innovators, creatives, expert coaches, teachers, and much, much more who come together to share their stories. Each episode reveals how they've embraced their inner sense to pursue their passions and shine their unique lights in the world. We'll have thought-provoking discussions and chat about tools that will provide fresh perspectives to help you create a joyful and meaningful life. As founder and chief visionary officer of award-winning hair care brand Inner Sense Organic Beauty, I am also an avid meditator, platform artist, author, and mother of a special needs young adult. Over 20 years ago, I intentionally brought mindfulness to morning routines by authoring each affirmation on Inner Sense Organic Beauty's products, which we call Innerflections. You can check them out on the back of the bottle. It's my goal to have this podcast to be your warm and compassionate companion, whether you're on a journey for deeper meaning, seeking greater joy, or in need of love and healing. Let's continue our journey of self-discovery, self-care, and self-love. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive into this week's Trust Your Inner Sense episode now. Hello, friends. Welcome. I'm so happy that you joined me here. Thank you so much for listening. I wanted to share with you something that really recently surprised me. This is a little bit of a journey. Just for starters, it's surrounding leadership. So I thought that would be a great topic. But we recently had an offsite, and it was a Dale Carnegie leadership training, 2-day leadership training. And we brought a bunch of all of our leaders here from Inner Sense to this training. So there were probably about, I'm going to guess maybe 20, 25 of us. And there were 2 trainers. And like I said, it was a Dale Carnegie training. Pretty amazing. I, of course, had heard of Dale Carnegie, but never knew his work specifically in leadership training. I think it was the one book, How to Influence People. It's more of a sales book. So I didn't realize there was a leadership training. But anyway, our VP of People Success organized this. And one of the first things that was asked was, think about a leader in your life. And I guess I had never really reflected on who I consider myself emulating as far as a leader. And so I was surprised to find that my father came to mind. Pretty amazing. My father was an amazing man. So I wanted to take a pause from my general interviews and just reflect on the person that kind of shaped the foundation for me as far as leadership is concerned. My father's name was Bernard Krieg, and he grew up in Oakland. I think he was born in Richmond, California, but grew up in Oakland, California. He was one of 8 children born into a very Catholic family. He actually attended the Franciscan seminary and thought that he was going to become a priest. And so after 10 years, he chose not to become a priest, which was interesting. And he actually got his teaching credential from San Francisco State and his master's in, I think, English, if I remember correctly. But he became a teacher, and he actually started teaching in Martinez, California at the elementary level. And then shortly thereafter, took an assignment in Germany at the Chambly Air Force Base, where he met my mom, his wife. He tells a really funny story. I'm going to get to the leadership part, so just bear with me for a minute. I kind of want to give you just the essence of who my father was. He tells this story about that they were hiring, he was the principal of this elementary school, very small Air Force base. Well, I don't know if it was a small Air Force base, but I would imagine the children on the Air Force Base were, it was a small group of children. So I would assume that it was a fairly small elementary school on the Air Force Base. They needed to hire a new teacher. And so they hired this teacher that was coming in from Detroit, Michigan. And again, this is over in Europe. And he talks about how he was the principal and he went to the train station to pick up this new hire that was going to be a teacher. And it was my mom that got off the train. Her name was Norma. And so my dad talks about how Norma, this new hire, got off the train and he dropped down to one knee and said, "Will you marry me?" Now, of course, that was not the truth. But what's funny about that story was they did fall in love very, very quickly. And shortly thereafter were married and stayed in Europe for a little while, but then ultimately moved from Europe to California. And that's where he started his family. So anyway, but as you can tell from that story, my dad had a very large sense of humor and always liked to dramatize, I guess, certain things. So anyway, pretty funny. But back to the idea of him being a leader. Also, he happened to be my elementary school principal when I was growing up. So I went to elementary school in Pittsburgh, California at Highlands Elementary. And when I reflect back on it, it was quite mortifying having your father as your elementary school principal. I have many, many memories of being lined up in the hallway, going to an assembly or maybe lining up to go out to the play yard, and my father being there and directing traffic, traffic meaning the children that were coming in and out or whatever we were doing. And he would always have these crazy hand gestures and like put his finger up to his lip to silent people and like use his eyes and just wave his hands in certain ways. And of course, all the students found it, very funny that he was doing this. And of course, I just wanted to shrink back into the tiled wall thinking that, that was my father. So looking back, I think it was kind of challenging for me to be his daughter in elementary school. And it was actually from first grade on to fifth grade. And so that was quite a few years. But I also have memories even before that. He was an elementary school principal in Pittsburgh as well at another elementary school called Marina. And this was prior this, I was probably in preschool. And I remember him walking the halls with him like after hours, like maybe we were there. I don't even know if it was like maybe a Saturday or I don't know how I was there with him, or maybe there was some sort of, parent teacher night or something. And I got to go with him and we'd walk the hallways and he would never pass a piece of paper without picking it up. And he was always, you know, what I got from that was that he just had so much pride in not only his job, but the school and just cared for it in such a way that showed me looking back that was pretty impactful. And so I find myself, it's funny when I'm here at my office, after hours or here on the weekends doing something, I find myself kind of picking things up and straightening. And I don't know, it just always makes me think of my father and, me being a little girl and walking the hallways of the elementary school with him. Yeah, he was just such a big, fun-loving man and big personality, would I say, and warm, warm, warm heart. And so just reflecting back to that, it makes me just really realize, what is a leader and how do I want to lead? And those lessons that I took from him. Thinking back on it and the idea of who he was and just the legacy that he kind of left, I think to another memory that I have of him that I just recently found out getting together with a group of my friends that I'm still in contact with, that we get together probably about once a month or so. And one of my friends that I went to elementary school with, and I didn't even know this story until she recently told me, she had a health challenge growing up and she was going to a neighboring school that refuses to accommodate her medical condition. She had to use the bathroom frequently. And so her mom got feedback from the teachers that it was too disruptive for the classroom and they weren't going to be willing to accommodate the needs that she had. And so her mom obviously was very, very upset with this school and ended up researching their neighborhood school, which happened to be my dad's school and the school that I was going to, Highlands Elementary. And she had a conversation with my father. And so my father said, no problem. she can actually use my bathroom. So my dad had a large office in the main office, and he had a small bathroom that was a private bathroom. And so my friend was permitted to leave the classroom anytime and go use his restroom whenever she needed to. And my friend reflected on that her mother was so appreciative of my father and the accommodations that he was willing to make for her to be able to go to school and to be able to, still participate, but also have her medical needs met. And I think that that was just something that I was kind of astounded by. And obviously, being a parent myself and knowing how challenging it is when you have a child that needs accommodations. And so she just reflected on how wonderful her mother thought my father was, and how what a great transition that was for her to be able to go to her neighborhood school and have those accommodations. So that was super heartwarming, obviously, for me to hear and to not even know that about my father, because of course we were little at the time and I had no clue that she really had that accommodation. So that was very, very heartwarming. I feel like there is story after story of my father like that that continues to come up for me. Also, as far as inner sense is concerned, he was mine and Greg's biggest champion starting the brand, and so proud of us. And even when I was a hairstylist, I remember him always keeping my business cards in his wallet, and anybody that he ran across, he would give them my card and tell them about me as a hairstylist, and then about Inner Sense as a brand, and was just one of our biggest cheerleaders. He was so connected to Greg, and I think just silently not only led, but silently supported. It wasn't like this big outwardly display of like, you got this or whatever. But, I just have so many memories of leaving the house, maybe going to work. And, especially like, when I think back to the very, very challenging times that we had when we were first building the brand, he would always say to me, do good. That was just his saying always, like, bye, dad. He's like, okay, bye, Joanne. Do good. And it was just very, very sweet to think back to those times of him supporting me and supporting Greg with the brand. And unfortunately, he passed away in 2016. And that was just right as the brand was kind of making a turn. So he never really got to see like the kind of the major fruits of our labor. Um, yeah. So it's just interesting to think back on that. Yeah, so I think there were a lot of lessons that I took from my father as far as leading with kindness, leading with heart, and, ultimately just always being supportive. And he was such a man of faith and had so much faith in just people and life. And I'm just really blessed to think about that I had the opportunity to reflect on leadership and to not even really realize that my father was probably one of the biggest leaders or mentors, somebody that I could really look to. And, he didn't do it in a big way because there were never a lot of words, or there were never a lot of like lectures or pep talks or anything like that. I mean, I probably looking back didn't even really feel like I could go to him at times. But I'll tell you what, I think one of the things that I learned from my father, or one of the many things that I learned from my father, is actions are more powerful than words. And, he always led in such a quiet way, but just so impactful and so powerful as I'm thinking about it. One of the other things, thinking about elementary school and just my father, he loved kids, and you could see his eyes light up when he was around children. And I think that spoke to his just outlook on life, as far as just being so simple and kind and not complicating things, and just his joy for life and being willing to laugh at himself and make jokes, and just this zest for life that not everybody always has. And so I think that's another thing that I took from my father, was just the idea of being a little bit childlike with ourselves and with the people around us, to not take life too seriously, because obviously he was a father of 5 children, and I know that he and my mom were both school teachers, and so they didn't have a lot often. And I think it's just really important to think about and reflect the idea that sometimes it's just the simple things in life. We spent many of our summers traveling across country. My mom was from Detroit, Michigan, and so they were school teachers, and so we were able to have the summers together. And I have many, many fond memories of traveling in our station wagon with our trailer across country to go visit my mom's family, and just those times of camping. I think those some of those times just being out in nature were probably some of the most happy times that we had together as a family. And, you know, those are precious memories and things that I feel like he really valued family. And I actually have a picture here in front of me of my father in his elementary school office, and you can see, like, in the background, a macrame owl that my mom macrameed. I think my mom did, or maybe one of my sisters did for him. That's so funny. And then there's, like, this little porcelain guy that's on his desk that one of our neighbors made for him. She did ceramics, and I actually have that little ceramic man, and he kind of has, it's, you can see only the side of it, but he has this goofy face on him, and it's kind of this goofy little creature man. And it's just so fun to look at that and have those memories of that sitting on my father's desk. This picture here of him, you can see he has his family lined up. We're all in these frames, like these accordion style frames. And you can tell that he did that specifically for the picture, to like include his family in the picture, because that wouldn't have been how it was sitting on his desk. But if you can look closely, he has each one of us, our pictures lined up. And that's really who my father was. He was really a family man, but it extended beyond our family, extended into anybody that was in his sphere. He was always so warm and so welcoming and so inviting. Wow. Yeah. So I would just invite you to, number one, think about who are the leaders in your life and how have they shaped you? I feel like this reflection for me has been so valuable and so wonderful to just expand my view of leadership, and just to expand like how I want to show up and how I would like people to remember me. And then I would just like to invite you to think about, how can you be more childlike? How can you have more fun in your life? I think there's so many things in our lives that are so tough and so heavy. And maybe just take a minute, and I'm going to take a deep breath right now, you guys. Just take a deep breath and think about how you can create more levity in your life. It might be simpler than you think. Maybe it's just in this moment of being like my father and acting silly, or, you know, making somebody smile. That might give you more joy in your life. So, thank you so much for allowing me to share this reflection on my father and my reflection on leadership and how we might all show up as leaders in our life. We don't have to be the head of a company, or we don't even have to have people that are reporting to us. We're leaders within our family, we're leaders within our friends, we're leaders within our community, and we're just leaders in the way in which we show up. So I hope this moment has been special for you. It's been very, very special for me. And I would like to end it, if I can. This is a little, I'm stretching myself here, you guys. My father, when he came to Highlands Elementary, because it was a shift in principalship, and he ended up, like, right at the time that he came in, he was new to that school, and it happened to be right when I was in, I think, the end of my kindergarten year or into first grade. And he had a school song written. I didn't even really realize this until later on, when I told him that I remembered the song, and then we talked about it, how he had that. It's like a, what do they call it? Almost like a fight song or something like that. And so he had this song written, and I'm going to try to sing it for you guys because I think it's super fun. So, anyway, I wish I had Morgan here with me right now because she's so good at singing, but I'm just going to go for it. And so, this is a song that my dad had written for the school, and we would sing it as kids, either like before an assembly or after an assembly. And he would stand up there and he'd be at the mic and he would lead us all in the song. So, here it goes. Whew, okay. The kids from Highlands School are quite a treat. They've got 100 per from head to feet. They've got that style, that smile, that winning way. And when you look at them, you'll recognize them and you'll say, now there goes kids I'd like to know. They've got that good old Highlands pep and go. Just take one look at them, they're quite a treat. They can't be beat. The kids from Highlands School. Yay! So thank you guys. I hope that uplifted you in some way. And I hope you all enjoy this moment. And I hope you all consider leading like my father did, leading with a big heart and ultimately leading with love. Thank you so much for joining me for today's episode, dear friends. I would be thrilled to hear which part resonated with you the most. Your reflections on today's topic and how it sparked action in your life mean a lot to me. Feel free to share your thoughts at podcasts@innersensebeauty.com or leave a review. I look forward to you coming back next week to explore another exciting topic together. If you'd like to dive deeper, be sure to check out the show notes for some valuable links. Until we meet again, take good care of yourself. Know that you are surrounded by love and always trust your inner sense. Wishing you all the best, friends.